Welcome in, everybody. This is your host, Stephen Ray, and the 14 playoff is obviously here. And did they get it right? We're going to be joined, of course, by Tom Luginbill off the top of the show. And then we're also going to be joined by Tex Ags Radio owner to talk about did Texas A&M get snubbed and what we can expect from the Aggies. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we get you primed and ready for an exciting week of college football and the bowl season, only on the Stingray Show.
The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you!
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn.
Worst defense ever!
So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee. They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium. Are you kidding me? My God almighty. What an epic way for the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry to end this game. What a play. Wow.
And we are live. I hope everybody's doing well today. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring up my co-host, Heath. Heath, how's it going today, my friend?
Going wonderful, Stephen. How about you, brother?
Doing good. And as you can see, I've got the festive background behind us as it is the holiday season.
I do see that. Hey, if you want to make it festive for everyone watching, let's bring in our first guest.
Absolutely. So without further ado, here is the national recruiting analyst and expert at ESPN, the one and only Tom Luginbill. Tom, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, guys. How are you doing? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, my friend.
Christmas.
And so let me just go ahead and ask you off the top, do you feel like the committee got the four teams right?
Well, I don't necessarily feel like they got it wrong. I just feel like they did the easy thing, which is what the committee generally does. They're going to do the thing that is going to probably warrant the least amount of backlash. And what the one area as it relates to the Notre Dame Texas A&M debate that they're always going to be able to point to is the language that they have in their bylines where if you didn't win your conference championship or you didn't play in your conference championship game, you've got to be unequivocally, that's the word they use, unequivocally better in order to go ahead of a team that did. And in this case, they can always fall back on that. We can debate who's the better team right now. Heck, I'll tell you right now, I think Oklahoma's better than all of those teams. I think Oklahoma's better than Texas A&M. I think they're better than Ohio State. I think they're better than Notre Dame. But you know what? They blew it in the first half of the season, and now they don't have a shot. So I don't, like I said, I just think they did the easy things, and it wasn't a difficult call for them.
Yes.
Tom, let me ask you this. Do you think that ratings of certain teams had any influence to the committee? We always hear that rumor. Do you have any idea if that's true or not?
Well, I sat in on the mock selection committee deal, and it was a 3-day session where you learn the nuts and bolts, all of the different things that we tend to criticize and, point fingers at, and then you go and you sit in that room and you go through it. Listen, I would like to think that brand and who you are in terms of the program that you represent does not come into play. But the reality of the situation is you want to create the best matchups, right? You want to also get the best viewership. You want to, in a normal year, get the best draw in terms of the traveling teams, going and attending the bowl game. But I also don't think there's been many times where the committees had to make that tough call, where they've had to sit there and say, oh man, we might want to take them because, maybe they're a better match against so-and-so.
Right.
I don't think they ever felt like they were in that position with Cincinnati. I just, the system is not set up for the group of 5 program right now. That's just how the system works. There's a reason why there are different levels of college football, because there's different levels of talent. Not everybody can play at Alabama. Not everybody can play at Ohio State. And so while you may have done a wonderful job and gone undefeated and had a really, really good football team, I think most people, especially the coaches that are in that room, they sit there and they say, okay, if Cincinnati played in the SEC or Cincinnati played in the Big Ten, would they be undefeated? The unanimous answer to that is no. And I think they tend to fall back on that.
Tom, does it come to the – and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but I want to hear it from you. You're the expert. It's not the 4 best deserving teams. It's the 4 best teams, correct?
Yeah, it's not most deserving. It's the 4 best teams. And, again, regardless of how many games you played, regardless of conference affiliation, and in some instances, regardless of whether or not you've won your conference championship game. They're going to look and listen, you look at Notre Dame, and I will actually commend the committee here. Oftentimes what happens is when you lose can play a significant role in terms of how the committee. Texas A&M beat Vanderbilt 17-12 in their opener.
Yes.
But if that game would have happened 2 weeks ago, even if they would have beat them 17, that would have hurt Texas A&M.
Yeah.
But nobody remembers it happened. So I commend the committee because they didn't have a knee-jerk reaction and allow themselves to become a prisoner of the moment when Notre Dame got beat up pretty badly, which, by the way, Clemson does that to most people they play, even some of the best people. Dabo's even had Nick Saban's number, and very few people have done that.
Yeah. I'm not one to wanting to expand the playoff, and I know that's an unpopular thought, but
yeah.
What year have we seen that the 4th best team has a shot even getting close to the first place team? Because we many of the 4th place, and even this year, I'm not trying to predict the future, but I'm not liking Notre Dame's chances against Alabama. The 4th place team doesn't really have a chance against number 1. Why in the world would we expand the playoff?
Well, it's interesting. You make a great point. And I understand. I don't think it's so much about people trying to say, well, if more teams are in it, that gives more opportunities to knock off a Clemson or an Alabama. No, it doesn't. It just means you're going to have more blowout games in the first round is what it really means. Because to your point, and listen, this isn't Clemson and Alabama's fault. It's not their fault. It's up to everybody else to go and close the gap and find a way to be competitive and find a way to pull out a win and maybe beat somebody that you're not supposed to. So we can't lay blame at the footsteps of Alabama and Clemson. But I do think that if you had a discussion about expansion, I think you go to 6 first. You give the first 2 seeds a bye. You let the other 4 play, all right? And then you play a semifinal and a championship game, because I think year in and year out, for the most part, there really aren't 8 teams that are capable of winning the national championship, truly winning the national championship. I know people are clamoring for more competition and they want more teams in it because it gets interesting, and there's Clemson and Alabama fatigue. I get all that. But that doesn't solve the problem of naming a new national champion. Whoever you let in the playoff still isn't better than Alabama and Clemson right now. And again, that's not their fault.
Right. Tom, I've had this little pipe dream. Feel free to steal my idea if it makes college football better, if you know the powers that be will go for it. But I've always mentioned that we should have divisional conference championships. And if you want to cross them, okay, and we'll take the SEC for example this year, send a number 2 Georgia over to play Alabama and send number 2 A&M over to play Florida. And the winner of those 2 games play in the SEC championship. And if you get an A&M and a Bama, 2 teams from the SEC Western Division, so be it. But after that game, that SEC championship game, a lot of this debate is put to rest if A&M should be in, or if so-and-so should get a New Year's Six bowl. I just think one more conference game and a playoff, a divisional playoff, would settle all of this.
It would, but the coaches will never go for it because they don't want to have to play that extra game. The reality of the situation is, look at all the grief we give Notre Dame for not joining a conference, and look at what happened to them on Saturday. So not having to play that extra data point for Notre Dame hasn't hurt them. They've made a college football playoff without having to play a championship game, and to further their point, they're going to go right back to being independent because financially it's far more lucrative for them personally. I thought the marriage and the arrangement between them and the ACC was fantastic. It made for a great league, and the ACC was really strong, and they helped to do that. But again, you start to play that extra game, and that's, listen, look at coaches poll, and everybody's giving him all kinds of grief for it because he had Ohio State at 11. He's not saying that Ohio State isn't one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the country. He's saying they played half the games of everybody else. Every time you take the field, not only do you have a chance to win, you have a chance to lose.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too that people kind of overlook here.
Well, what bowl games are you calling this bowl season, and can you please break them down for us?
Well, first of all, I hesitate to even say it because I ended the regular season with 4 of my last 6 games getting canceled. Then I'm scheduled to have the Independence Bowl on Saturday. That gets canceled. Now I've been reassigned to the ServPro First Responders Bowl, so that's going to be Louisiana and UTSA.
Right.
That's going to be on Saturday on ABC. And then I've got the Gator Bowl between Kentucky and NC State. And, fortunately for me, it's Christmas week, and I was supposed to have Coastal and Louisiana last week, so I've already done a lot of study with Louisiana, know them pretty well, and actually had UTSA versus BYU earlier in the season. I just think that the job Billy Napier's done, you're in there at Louisiana Lafayette, where you got one Power 5 school and tons of athletes. Well, they can't all go to Alabama. They can't all go to LSU. They can't all go to Auburn or Mississippi State. So there's no excuse for that program not to be a great program. And I think if you look at what Jeff Traylor's done at UTSA, it's kind of a little mini gold mine, man. You're a group of 5 school in a winnable conference. They went 7-4 this year, got to play 11 games, finished second to UAB, lost to UAB by a touchdown. So this is a program on the rise. I think they're very similar. They both want to run the ball. Literally, both teams have balance almost to the yard on offense, run to pass. It's amazing what they've done offensively. And then they force turnovers. Both Louisiana and UTSA have been in double-digit forced turnovers on defense, so they've done a really nice job. And to be honest with you, I haven't even dove into UK and NC State yet. I'm gonna wait till I get past this one first.
Yes.
Hey, you brought up Billy Napier. What's your relationship like with him?
Well, I first got to know him a little bit when he was a recruiting coordinator and tight ends coach at Clemson. Then, became the offensive coordinator, had a parting of the ways there. Served as an analyst at Alabama, and then went with Jim McElwain to Colorado State. And that really kind of got him back on the path of being a coordinator and having an opportunity to not be in that analyst role, and kind of resurrected his career. And, eventually went to work for Todd Graham at Arizona State, and Herm Edwards decided not to keep him. And literally within a week, he gets the Louisiana job. And, talking to him last week, everybody talks about him being up for jobs, and I think he's just kind of looking for the right job. He's got a little bit of a group of 5 gold mine there, where you're always going to have access to good players, which means you're going to have a good team. The more teams you win, the more games you win, the more attractive you become. And, nowadays, whatever Power 5 job you take, when it's all said and done, whether they fire you 4 years later or you last 10 years, it's life-altering money. So, if that's the case, then why not wait around for the right one if you don't think the right one's coming along yet?
That's what I was going to follow up with is, I know that Ole Miss had interest in him last year before he said no, and they went to the route of Lane Kiffin. I think Arkansas had interest with him. I know Mississippi State had very much interest in him. And the rumor from the MSU insiders was he was kind of holding out for that South Carolina job. Now that job he didn't get. I went to Shane Beamer, as we all know. But now it's kind of like, hey, Eddie Orgeron's kind of on a hot seat right now down in Baton Rouge. I mean, if there's a job, and I know you can't predict the future, but Is he just holding out for a top 10 job, a top 5 job? I mean, how long is he going to hold out?
He might be, you know, a lot of discussion about the Auburn job and the current state of that job. I think that the Auburn job's a really, really good job, but also a very dysfunctional infrastructure in the sense that you just got too many hands in the cookie jar. And listen, they've proven they can win at a high level, an elite level. They've played for national championships and been to a college football playoff and a BCS championship game. Sorry. But there's something about it that scares people off. And, you know, we went through this with Texas when they hired Charlie Strong, you know, not to knock Charlie Strong, but nobody wanted the job. Right. I mean, you're Texas. Why does nobody want the job? You better start looking in the mirror as to why. Right. So maybe Billy Napier's just, I don't know, is it Tennessee? Do they make a change up there? And then that's the one that he's really interested in.
But NCAA investigation breathing down their neck.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So you got to consider all those things. And at the end of the day, too, I think a lot of people feel like there's 2 jobs in that league that can really, truly compete with Alabama, and it's probably Florida and Georgia. And if you're not at one of those jobs, you know, do you wait? And I don't really know what his answer is. And we asked him actually last week, and he just said, just not the right fit. He put it that simply.
Wow.
Well, before we let you go, to leave on a fun note, I've actually got a little clip that I would love for you to give us your side of the story, if you don't mind.
Is this an interception?
Eventually. But the first time I ever talked to Coach was on the first signing day show I did. And it wasn't in person, it was over the phone. And somebody had apparently said to him, you know, you'll be talking to Dari, and he may not have necessarily caught it. And so I asked him a question. And I'm on the set with Tom Luginbill and a couple other people. And I said, you know, I asked him this question, and he goes, his answer is, well, Darcy, I tell you. And he started on this answer. And Luginbill is to my left, laughing hysterically. Like and I look at him, and I'm not on camera, and I look at him, and he's got his head like on the desk because Spurrier just called me Darcy. And so to this day, Luginbill calls me Darcy. But about 3-4 years ago, whenever the first college football or SEC media day in Atlanta was, we had Spurrier on the set as a guest. And apparently somebody had said something to him. So I asked him a question. And before he answers a question, he looks at me across the desk and he said, somebody said I called you Darcy once. Did I call you Darcy? And I said, Coach, you did. It's all good. Call me whatever you want. He goes, well, okay. Dari. And he just made sure to it was clear that he knew my name this time. And he just went on with his answer, but it was pretty classic Spurrier.
That's pretty funny. We had Tom Luginbill on the show, and he always said that Spurrier called him Little Loogie. He said, "Let me see him." He always calls me Loogie. Hey, Little Loogie.
That's pretty funny. Doesn't surprise me though. That's funny.
That's true. That whole story is 100% true, man. I was sitting to Dari's left. I was sitting to his left. He's looking at the camera crossway this way. He's on a single shot interviewing, and I'm right here. So I'm right. He can sense me and probably peripherally see me dying laughing when he called him Darcy, because he does that. He'll do that with names like all the time. And sometimes he does it and he knows he's doing it, trying to rib you a little bit. But yeah, that's a 100% true story.
Man, that's awesome.
I've got to ask you this, Tom, before you get out of here. If Dari is in your phone, do you actually have him listed as Dari or Darcy in your phone?
He's Darcy 2 because he changed his phone number, and I'm too lazy to go in and change the number, so I just saved the contact as Darcy 2, and I do that like with everybody. Like Anish Shroff, my broadcast partner, he changed his number, so he's now Anish 2.
There you go. There you go. Time before we get out of here, us both being former San Diego residents, your top 3 San Diego Chargers of all time.
Oh, man. James Brooks. No. Excuse me. Lionel James. That's who I meant to say. Lionel James. Dan Fouts. I want to say Charlie Joyner. But I might go John Jefferson.
Okay. Okay, I thought you would have Fouts number one, and I thought LT might have.
Fouts is too easy. Fouts is too easy. I would go Gary Anderson just for the leap from the 6-yard line over all of them.
There you go. There you go.
Tom, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you guys have a very Merry Christmas and enjoy college football this week and be safe.
We will. Same to you guys, man. Enjoy your families.
Yes.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Have fun at the lake house, Tom.
See ya.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, I got to tell you what, that was an awesome interview, and we want to thank Tom Luginbill for taking time out of his busy morning to talk to us.
Yeah, especially at the lake house. This is some time that he's got off here early in the morning at the lake house, and he told you, Stephen, that he had a full schedule today, but he worked some time in for us, and very grateful for Tom for doing that. Thanks, Tom.
Absolutely. And, man, I want to get your thoughts about the top four because, we obviously asked Tom about it first. What is your thought? What are your thoughts about it?
I understand it. I'm not a conspiracy kind of guy, but I do think that TV ratings did have something to do with this. I really do. Yeah. Ohio State carries a lot of weight in TV ratings nationwide, just not in the Northwest, not in the Midwest, but nationwide. The Buckeyes have a nice following from coast to coast. I don't like the top four. I think we're going to have some boring football games. And hey, that's not Clemson's fault. That's not Alabama's fault. But I did not think Notre Dame deserved that fourth spot, and I do not think Ohio State deserved it. But just like the question I asked Tom, it's not for the deserving teams; it's for the best teams.
Yes.
And and that's the situation that we're in right now, Stephen. So, I don't believe in play-in games, but it would be fun to see Cincinnati and Ohio State play for a state championship to get into the college football playoff.
Yes.
Do I think Ohio State would win that game? Yeah, but I think that game would be a whole lot closer. I think a turnover could change that game. A special teams play could change that game.
Yes.
A&M, I think A&M was if I'm having a vote, I'm not voting A&M the fourth team in. I'm voting A&M the third team in.
Yes.
I thought A&M should be number 3 and playing Clemson first round, and the winner of that game plays Alabama. The Alabama and the fourth place team. I would have had Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But deserving teams in. I'm not putting the best teams in. I'm putting the deserving teams in. And I think A&M and the Bearcats at Cincinnati are more deserving than Notre Dame, who got embarrassed the other day, and they're going to get embarrassed their next game. And that's going to probably put Brian Kelly on the hot seat. And Ohio State. Stephen, here's the most important thing about football is depth.
Yes.
And people are like, oh, well, if we had our starting quarterback, we would have won that game. Hey, if we had our starting running back, we'd have won that. Hey, the game's not about the starters. Your record is not about the starters. Your record is about your team, the entire team, the depth of that team, the second man up. And Ohio State, we didn't really get to see their depth. I know they had some COVID issues this past week, and they had very minor COVID issues the week before. But, we've seen a lot of teams play with less than 50 players. I shouldn't say a lot, but a few teams play with less than 50 players. So, it's crazy to see Ohio State get in, but I do understand it. Do I think Ohio State is one of the 4 best teams in America? I do. Do I think they're deserving to be in? I do not.
Well, let's talk about the top team in the land, Alabama, because we usually don't talk about them till later in the show. But I will tell you this, everybody was really, really high on Alabama's defense. Oh, they're so much better. I got to tell you, Heath, Alabama's defense was better against subpar, huh?
I think your microphone went out, brother. There you are.
I don't know why.
There's your audio. You're back. You're back.
Okay, that's odd. Anyway, that their defense was good against subpar team. Subpar teams, but they got exposed again against this Florida football team. At big play after big play after big play, and moving forward with Clemson upcoming potentially, that could be an issue with Rodgers. And, of course, Trevor Lawrence, because they hit a lot of big plays against Notre Dame. I'm interested to see about this Pete Golding Alabama defense moving forward.
Well, it's not like they played a bum team, and it's not like they had a bum coach on the other side. Dan Mullen, a lot of people would argue with you, is the greatest offensive mind in the SEC.
Yes.
With that being said, it's not like, Florida is this – 5-5 team.
Right.
They do have a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback. They do have maybe the best wide receiver in all of football on their football team playing tight end. They do have an outstanding football player in Kadarius Toney.
Yes.
There's some pieces over there at Florida that are going to have long football careers at the next level. So, any defense is going to struggle with that. But let's face it. Nick Saban, shockingly and right on his part, changed the chemistry of his team and the foundation of his team. Instead of being a run-first offense and I play defense and special teams to beat you, he's changed it to I can outgun anybody that I play. And I think Hugh Freeze changed that philosophy for him when Hugh Freeze beat him twice at Ole Miss. So now Nick Saban, look what he had with Tua. Look at Jalen Hurts. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL, and he benched Jalen to put in Tua. He benched an NFL quarterback to put in another NFL quarterback. That's where we are now. And years before, Jalen would have finished out his time, and Tua would just have to sit on the bench and wait his time. But that's not what Alabama is about now. So, I'm not really concerned about Bama. I'm not overly worried about Bama being exposed because if you're going to beat Bama, you're going to have to outgun them.
Yes.
And there's a lot of weapons on that Alabama offense.
But I think with Trevor Lawrence, we saw Saturday that they have the weapons to keep up.
Oh, absolutely.
Because in the first game, their defense was atrocious against Ian Book and Notre Dame. And Brett Venables made a huge change, kept him in the pocket, had 5 or 6 sacks in that game. So definitely Clemson is a team to be reckoned with, and I think that's going to be a really good national championship. But going back to this Florida game, can you tell me, and just think about this for a minute, can you tell me the last time Florida beat Alabama?
Oh, give me a second and I'll tell you. One Timothy Richard Tebow was probably playing quarterback for Alabama. And
you mean Florida?
Yeah, excuse me. And that's probably the last time they beat Alabama. And it was probably an SEC championship game. So I'm trying to think who Urban Meyer and the Gators beat on that national title run when he was at Florida. I want to say he beat Bama in the SEC championship game. Am I right?
Florida has not beaten Alabama since 2008. That is 7 straight losses to Florida versus Alabama.
But was it the SEC championship game? Do you remember that?
You know what? I was actually on about the 5 rows up in the end zone there in the old Georgia Dome, and I actually got on camera the first time Florida scored and they kicked the extra point. So I was actually at the game the last time the Gators knocked off Alabama, and man, that seems like an eternity ago.
Yeah. I got too many kids. I remember everything that happened before kids, and then after kids, everything's a blur. Oh, wait, it seems like last month right now. So,
But, dude, that's a lot of dominance, and especially as good as Florida has been here recently, and a lot of the matchups between them. 2008 was the last win. That's insane.
Yeah. So Timmy Tebow was there. Timothy Richard Tebow.
Yes.
Was playing quarterback for Florida. You know what? Chris Leak might have been the starter on that team, and Timmy might have been a freshman coming in on special packages.
No, that was the year before.
Okay, there you go. See, that's why you're here, Steven.
Yes. And by the way, the next year, in 2009, was the year that Tim Tebow was crying on the sideline, the memorable crying game, because Alabama got revenge, and that started the roll of Alabama 7 straight over Florida. Yeah.
You know, I know Bama fans don't want to hear it, and they're tired of hearing it. I'm old enough to remember it. You know, when Bear stepped away, and Bear did not go out on top. Bear Bryant did not leave Alabama on top at all. Bear Bryant left in the Liberty Bowl in Memphis, Tennessee. You know, John Bond, who we've had on the show, John Bond, the famous All-SEC, All-American quarterback that played at Mississippi State from Georgia. He was the original Tim Tebow back in the day. Led the SEC in rushing as a quarterback. That record's been broken by Matt Jones at Arkansas, then later by Nick Fitzgerald. I think Dak broke it, and then Nick Fitzgerald broke it after that. But John Bond exposed Alabama after they were fixing to go for a 3rd straight national title, and Mississippi State beat Alabama on November 1st, 1980. After that, the Bama dynasty started dying off very fast. Bear went out a couple of years later in the Liberty Bowl. He passed away, sadly, and not tragically, but sadly, shortly after that. And then Bama struggled for years. They showed some signs of promise, and then they would just go back to being mediocre. It's going to happen again, Alabama. No one stays on top in college football. No one.
So what other games? Obviously, you went to the Mississippi State game, so you did not actually get to watch much football. Let's go in and talk about the beatdown that Mississippi State put on Missouri. What was your thoughts about that game? Because I really thought it would be a much closer game.
I think Missouri, kind of like Auburn a little bit. They're a different team on the road. I think they struggle a little bit on the road. And Bazelak, the quarterback, great quarterback.
Yes.
But he struggled mightily the other day. And I don't know. We always see freshmen kind of hit a wall toward the end of the season. The season kind of wears on them. And this season is longer than most others. I think some of those Missouri players have kind of hit a wall a little bit. But the whole game changed on that muff punt early in the Missouri came out red smoking hot on offense, looked like a piping white hot knife going through butter. That first drive, and then it looked like they're about to get the ball back and go up 14-0. They muff the punt. The punt is recovered in the end zone by the long snapper of all people. Steven, when's the last time you seen a long snapper score a touchdown? But
I know,
that after that play. State was just kind of like, hey, we're going to be okay today. And so some timely turnovers in their favor. And, that was it. But that muff punt at the beginning of the game changed everything, changed all the energy for both sidelines. And, Missouri just never really got back to normal. It's one of those things where Missouri just could not find rhythm after that muff punt. And Mississippi State, for the first time, had a lead since Vanderbilt. Since the Vanderbilt game, the first time they've had a lead. So, they got a lead and ran with it, expanded that lead to multiple scores, and that was it. Mizzou just could not keep up. So I don't know if this is the start of Mike Leach and the air raid offense clicking, but it sure looked good Saturday.
Well, let me ask you this as I go ahead and roll the highlights again. And I hope my audio doesn't. There we go. Making sure my audio doesn't leave. I don't know what the issue is with that. But Heath, can you tell me the last time Missouri beat Hold on. Can you tell me the last time Missouri knocked off Mississippi State?
Well, I want to say they've only played twice since they've come into the conference, and the other time was a Thursday night game up in Como.
Yes.
And it was raining that game, and Dak Prescott just kind of took over that game. So
I'm talking about overall, not just in the SEC.
Oh, man, I couldn't tell you that, Stephen.
Okay, they've played 4 times. Both teams have won 2, and Mississippi State has won the last 2. Here's a little nugget for you. The last Missouri win was actually in Como, Missouri in 1984.
Wow. That was a good year, by the way.
So 1984 was the last Missouri win, and this was the first time ever that Missouri played in Starkville. The previous meeting was in Jackson back in 1930, if memory serves me correctly, because I had to look that up last night.
Wow, 1930.
Yes. So they played in 1930, 1984, and then that Thursday night game, and then this one. And I looked at the future schedule for both teams, and they are not scheduled to face off again until at least 2026 or after.
Here's the fun thing, Stephen. There is a possibility, a slight possibility, that if Mississippi State can win that next matchup in Starkville, whether it be 2026 or shortly after, it will be over 100 years since Missouri has beaten Mississippi State
in Mississippi,
in the Magnolia State.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Definitely.
The SEC has got to address this. They have got to address it.
Definitely. All right. What about now? I will tell you, this game did not have much of hype around it.
No, gosh, no.
No. I'm talking about another game.
Oh.
Yeah. This game did not have much hype about it because of all of the championship games. But this was a really, really good football game. It was Commander-in-Chief trophy, and actually that right there is what they played for. It was a defensive game. It was a sloppy game, and the first touchdown was obviously scored right there towards the end of the third quarter, and Army won this game by a final of 10-7 over Air Force, not allowing Air Force to get the Commander-in-Chief trophy since 2016.
I always loved Air Force's unis, but what's going on there? Where's my blue, gray, and white unis?
Yes.
I'm not too excited
and
about
so,
that.
There is the interception that ultimately sealed the deal, and there are the cadets right there celebrating with the Commander-in-Chief trophy. So congratulations to Army. And by the way, they were not left out of a bowl game. Everybody was wondering. They're 9-2. They are going to the Liberty Bowl up there in Memphis, which is not far from you, to take on the West Virginia Mountaineers because Tennessee backed out of a bowl.
Stephen, I could literally get in the car while we're still doing this show, and I could be in the parking lot of the Liberty Bowl before we're done.
Yes.
I'm probably 20 minutes or less from the parking lot of the Liberty Bowl from where I'm at right now. So.
Yes. So absolutely. Well, let me pull you up full screen, and I'm gonna pull you up full screen and just talk a little bit about this college football season, and then I'll be right back.
You know, the one thing I want to mention, we were talking about Army. The Pac-12 really messed up Army in their bowl game. They were in the Independence Bowl, and then the Pac backed out, and they were trying to get some other teams from the Pac to join, and they couldn't find anybody. And so a couple of people, media members, wanted to start jumping on other schools and other bowls and other conferences because Army was left out of the bowl picture. Call it what it is. The college football system is completely messed up due to television, not an individual team, not a conference, although the conferences do take on some of the blame. But I'm just glad that Army got in. Army is a great football team. They're 9-2, well-deserving bowl team, very well-deserving bowl team this year. And they didn't get a chance to play in the Independence Bowl. So I'm glad that I'm not glad that Tennessee got COVID and the coaching staff of the players. I'm not glad that, but I am glad that Army's got a chance to replace Tennessee in the Liberty Bowl and take on West Virginia. And that's going to be a really good game. West Virginia and Army. I mean, Neil Brown there trying to make some things happen at West Virginia. Not shocked that I won't be shocked if Neil Brown ends up in the SEC again. You know, he kind of got his roots there, dug in at Kentucky, and it's kind of moved around. But, you know, he was at Troy, and now he's at West Virginia. Don't be shocked if Neil Brown's back in the SEC here in the next year or two as a head coach. But looking forward to that Liberty Bowl matchup. You really don't get to say that too often, but the Liberty Bowl this year is going to be a fun game with Neil Brown and the West Virginia Mountaineers taking on the Black Knights of Army and Monken's triple option. So it'll be a fun game.
Absolutely. And Heath, are you ready to bring in our next guest who is probably pretty angry about the committee because they were not allowed in the 4-team playoff?
Steven, have your finger on that censor button just in case he lets the four-letter words fly.
No, not going to do that. All right, next up is the owner or co-owner of Tex Ags Radio. So without further ado, let me go on ahead and bring in Billy. Billy, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm great, guys. How are y'all?
Doing good. And how do you pronounce your last name?
Liucci.
Liucci, okay.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts about the Aggies unfortunately being left out?
Yeah, Steve, listen, I thought if you wanted to sit here and have the Ohio State, Notre Dame, A&M debate, I could have it, and I don't believe anyone from Kirk Herbstreit and Joey Galloway and all their Ohio State-ness on down could win the argument. Now, what I wouldn't do is throw a pouting storm off the set fit like Herbstreit did a couple years ago when Alabama got in over Ohio State, because I do think, like, look, I watch the games. I'm telling you right now, A&M, if they had the Notre Dame or Ohio State brand, would be in.
Yes.
If Texas A&M were 6-0 and their most impressive wins were struggles against Northwestern and Indiana, where Justin Fields, the golden child, threw 5 interceptions.
Yeah.
And I had to sit for a week and listen to that committee and ESPN, everybody trashed Kellen Mond for his performance after 2 weeks off in COVID protocol, not playing for 3 weeks and going up against the LSU team defeated to go beat Florida and Ole Miss. And everyone trashed A&M for that game that was 20-0 in the third quarter and with 30 seconds left. And that same group sat there and they don't apply the same logic. You know, where's the heat on Fields after throwing 5 picks against those two teams? How does Ohio State get credit for giving up 500 yards passing to Penix in Indiana? How is that not worse than A&M's offensive performance against LSU? Does bad defense not get talked about? A&M led the SEC in total defense. They were second against the run. They were top 5 nationally in third down conversion, sacks allowed, second in the SEC in rushing, controlled both lines of scrimmage. And here's the thing, guys. They won their last 6 SEC games by double digits.
Yes.
They won their last 7 overall, including that win over Florida. Yet the whole time, all we heard was this team should be higher, this team should be higher, that team should be. And then just one by one, they fell off. But at the end of the day, A&M couldn't overcome those two logos.
Right.
Billy, you brought up a great point, what you said just a second ago, but something that I want to mention is Notre Dame got blown out, and it was an ugly loss. And I know I'm not trying to start a war of words here. The loss to Alabama was ugly for A&M. But I was just kind of shocked that with such a recent loss with Notre Dame and Clemson that did them in. They're done for. They're out. But how in the world did a one-loss SEC team not get in? If I'm not mistaken, this is the first time ever a one-loss SEC team did not make the playoff. Am I correct on that?
You're absolutely correct. And the narrative and their scheme on that has been, well, the SEC wasn't good. That is complete. You guys know, you watch it. It's relative. So was the SEC down because LSU was way down from what they've been, and because Auburn had to fire a coach? Yeah, but see, for me, the SEC is still light years better than the Pac-12, the Big 12, who has to call the Sun Belt daddy this year, the Big 10, who was Ohio State and nobody.
Right.
About LSU being down, how about Penn State, Michigan, and Wisconsin? It's Ohio State and nobody. And then in the ACC, which, Notre Dame, I think is really good. I think A&M Notre Dame would be a hell of a game.
Yeah.
A&M Notre Dame, Notre Dame, Clemson, and that's it. So the prop-up thing that these talking heads are saying, from Herb Street to McElroy to Galloway on down, their deal is Notre Dame's second best win was a top 15 North Carolina team. Let me ask you guys this. Go look at North Carolina's schedule. A&M will have their chance to prove it against Carolina in the bowl game. But go look at North Carolina's schedule. And that's a team that lost to Virginia and to Florida State. And tell me that beating a team that lost to Virginia and Florida State should be the tipping point of getting you into the playoffs. Between that and the fact that Trevor Lawrence got COVID, that's why Notre Dame's in the playoffs. That makes sense. That's not applying logic and watching the football games and looking at football teams and saying, look, Auburn has 4 losses. Now, South Carolina was a disaster for them. But their other losses are Georgia, A&M, and Alabama. Okay? That football team on North Carolina's schedule, do you think Auburn's losing to Virginia and Florida State this year? With Bigsby and Nix, and Seth Williams, and Schwartz, and some of the players they have on that defense? No, they're not. And even if they did, then fine, they're North Carolina. Because North Carolina won nothing of note. They beat North Carolina beating Miami, a bad Miami, is what got Notre Dame into the playoff.
Right.
That and a shoe throw and Trevor Lawrence getting COVID. So it's unfortunate, but the reality is they're not applying. Everybody kept asking, what's A&M's second best win? And I would say, well, if you're going to say Notre Dame's is Carolina, then I'm going to say A&M's second best win is you can go 2 through 7 of their 7, or 2 through 8 of their 8 SEC wins. That is better than 2 through 8 or whatever it is for Notre Dame. South Florida, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Duke, Pitt, Syracuse. That is a brutally bad set of football teams that they played.
Definitely.
Let me ask you this, Billy. The bowl game with the Aggies, are they motivated to go? And what do you like about the matchup or don't like about the matchup for the Aggies?
Very motivating to go, first of all. I would be very surprised if they were not. This is not Georgia falling out of the playoff and being disappointed and believing all year it was kind of like their birthright that year to be in it. This is an Asian team that's never been there. They feel snubbed. They were hungry. I think they feel like they've got unfinished business. They have a senior quarterback that's had the best season of his career. You got to remember, a lot of these seniors, their first game of college football, Kellen Mond, was in the Rose Bowl. playing UCLA, and they blew a 44-10 lead to Rosen and UCLA on a Sunday night. That was their first ever game. And I really believe they want to go out with an Orange Bowl trophy. From Rose Bowl disaster to Orange Bowl, victory. And they have a lot to prove. Yeah, I mean, they're playing the team that Notre Dame kind of got in off of. The matchup part, look, I like this A&M offense against that Carolina defense. The part of the matchup that worries you, now they did have one of their two great running backs opt out, one of their two great receivers opt out. To me, it's their deep passing game against this A&M. Sam Howell in that deep passing game. If there's a weakness for the Aggies, it's over the top. There's some questions there. Tennessee exploited it once. There's been a lot of teams that have tried and just missed. Oddly enough, the Aggies only given up all season. Think about this. The entire season, they haven't given up a rush of 30 yards. The entire season, they've given up 5 pass plays of more than 40. 4 of those came against Alabama. So in every game, and they didn't give up a 30-yard rush to Alabama. They held Najee Harris to 50 yards rushing. So this has been a really tight defense and not giving up big plays, but Carolina lives by them. So I think that's the test, and that'll be the thing that the way Carolina can keep this thing close and make it a really interesting ball game. So if A&M can eliminate that or get pressure on Howell to keep that from happening, I think they'll have a big day. Otherwise, I think you can see a shootout and a really fun ball game.
Billy, how close do you really feel like that Texas A&M is to actually competing with Alabama? Because we've always seen it, that we have a lot of excitement coming into that game, and then unfortunately Alabama just blows out the Aggies.
That game, it's been weird the last couple seasons. If you watch those games closely, 2 of the 3 under Jimbo have gone from the first one and then this last one have been extremely competitive games that Bama has just blown out in a matter of just a couple of minutes before half. I mean, this year, A&M's down 14-0. They tie it up. It's 21-14, and they're driving with under 2 minutes before halftime. They go for it on 4th and 4 from about the Bama 35-40. And one of their best players drops a pass. That's not only a first down, but it's a catch and run. So at worst, you're probably down 21-17, if not tied. You finish off that drive. 4th down doesn't happen. Bama goes down and scores, and it's 28, and then there's a pick 6, and it's just like that. It gets completely away from A&M. So the final 3 minutes before the half, there was a pick 6, 4th down that failed, and then that allowed Bama to go down and score. So they're still a ways off. Here's where it is. I think it's those outside home run hitters that Bama's got at receiver. A&M doesn't have one yet. They're really strong at the skill spots, tight end, running back. Nia Smith is a terrific slot receiver, all-purpose weapon. They don't have those game changers on the outside, and they don't yet have those elite first, second, third round DB. They've gotten a lot better in that regard, though, through recruiting. I think Jalen James is sensational this year as a true freshman corner starting. So they're getting there. But that is where those games have been lost. But the good news for the Aggies is those games are not being lost in the trenches, which was a problem under Coach Summer. A&M is dominating pretty much everyone in the SEC on the lines of scrimmage, except Alabama, and when they played the Tide. Again, if you go back and watch that game, Texas A&M more than held their own. In fact, I'd say that it was no worse than a push along with the defensive and offensive front. And if you look at how they played the first season, if you said, tell me the 2 best O-lines in the SEC across the country, you say Alabama and Texas A&M. If you say, tell me the best defensive front in the SEC, you say Alabama, A&M, and Georgia. So it has to speak there. And the good news is I think they're absolutely there. If you look at what they just recruited, They got 2 borderline 5-stars on the O-line.
Right.
About 3 or 4 of them. 2 5-stars on the D-line and another couple 4s. Signed a 5-star last year out of Mississippi in McKinney Jackson. So they're doing what they need to do up front. And I think that's, if you don't do that, you got no shot. They've got that part handled. Now what they need to do is be able to match that skill. You know, I think if they would have played Alabama again, I would not, certainly wouldn't have picked A&M to win that football game. But I think it would have looked a lot more like the Florida-Alabama game than anything else. And I don't think A&M would have given it 50. I don't think they would have scored 36, but I think it would have been a game where the Aggies won the football, keep that explosive Alabama offense off the field a little bit, maybe limit some of those 60, 70, 80-yard bombs that go back. And I think we're looking at a much more competitive football game with people that are walking away from
Well, Billy, look, man, thank you so much for your time of joining us, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Absolutely. Love what you're doing, man. I really do.
Thanks,
you, bro.
man. All right.
Guys, thank y'all.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
There you go.
Yes. All right, man. Well, that was a pretty good interview.
Yeah, Billy's audio was kind of giving a little bit of trouble there at the very end, and I hate that. I was really enjoying what Billy had to say, and Billy made some extremely valid points.
Yes.
If you take A&M and they have the exact same record with the exact same wins by the exact same point total as Ohio State did, and so you were saying that A&M is in the Big Ten and they won by the exact same amount, and Ohio State was in the SEC, and they have the same exact outcome. Would A&M get in over Ohio State? And I have to agree with him. They would take Ohio State out of the SEC and put them in there, and that's crazy to think about. But he's right. It's about branding, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Is I think TV revenue money played a huge part in this.
Right. So are you ready to go back through some of the other highlights that we didn't show?
Yeah, let's make them quick, brother.
Why do you want to make them quick, though?
Because I have 4 kids, and I was told to come home and help out my wife. I feel like I've left her on a work release program. The inmates around the prison now.
Yep. Well, what did you think about the UAB Marshall win on Friday?
Billy and the Blazers, man. Bill Clark is clearly one of the greatest football coaches in America. He really is. This game, I didn't get to watch all of it. I watched parts of it. But I really think that Bill Clark is on borrowed time at UAB. I think that Blazers is not going to be much of a thing anymore. I will not be shocked if Bill Clark gets that Auburn job, and he'll be a phenomenal coach there. But I have no idea of where Auburn's going with that. But I know as long as Bill Clark is at UAB, they're going to be highly successful.
Yes. Well, did you also happen to watch, because I know that you were, what time did you leave the Mississippi State game?
What time did I leave?
Yeah, and did you stay till the end?
I stayed all the way. I'd never leave the games early, brother. I stayed to the end, no matter if it's good or bad.
Okay, well, let me just run you through this real quick, and I'm going to try and do the highlights for you and explain what happened here. Because honestly, this was, in my opinion, the best game of the day. It was, let me pull this up here. Stanford actually scored first out there at UCLA, and they actually went up 20-3, and then UCLA scored to make it 20-10. And then by the start of the fourth quarter, not only had they come all the way back, they actually took the lead 24-21, and then eventually went up 34-20, and then Stanford scored 14 points with under 3 to go because of a fumble right there that ultimately gave them a shot. They went into overtime. And in the first overtime, both teams scored. And then it was a wild ending, to say the least. I will actually let the highlights catch up a little bit. So we actually go into a second overtime. Stanford scores first. They get the touchdown there, and they kick the extra point. Then UCLA scores, and then Chip Kelly goes, let's go for two, let's go for two. And unfortunately, the first one does not go correctly because, as you can see, pressure and intentional grounding, you think the game's over, right? No, well, hold on a second. There was also holding in the end zone by Stanford. So as you can see, the referee's getting ready to call the intentional grounding. Hold on, holding against the defense. So let's do it all over again. And man, this is insane coming up. The guy who had a career day is stopped just inches short of the goal line, and Stanford survives the Rose Bowl game by beating them 48-47. What a wild game.
Yeah, Chip Kelly going back to the NFL.
He's got to, man.
Chip Kelly was the biggest and hottest name in college football a couple of years ago, and the magic has just gone on, just gone away. I've made the joke. Maybe it's coming true, Stephen. The curse of Timothy Richard Tebow. Ever since he played that stunt of cutting Tebow off the Eagles, his career has just dived.
Yes.
It's crazy to think about these things, but there's a lot of coaches that are on top of the world. Kevin Sumlin on top of the world a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Where is he now?
Fired.
And then very rarely do you see guys like Billy Napier, who was ran out of Clemson, told to get out of here. You're not helping us. Your play calling is terrible. Fired at Clemson and, ends up on the staff at Alabama as an analyst and works his way back into college football. And now he's declining jobs at Ole Miss, Arkansas, Mississippi State, now Auburn. He's just declining jobs right and left.
So that's insane. All right, let's go to the feel-good story of the day. And I've been on this team throughout the entire year. And boy, did they really have a career-defining win for them in Vegas this past weekend as the San Jose State Spartans won their first ever Mountain West Conference title by beating Boise State 34-20 on Saturday. What an amazing story. And to think about this, Heath, with all of the past history with San Jose State and them going 11-2, I think it was back in 2012, they did not win their conference title that year. And so this would be the first year that they've won the title in program history. So hats off to San Jose State.
Big time. I mean, San Jose State, as we've mentioned before on the show, one of the biggest party schools in America, been voted the number one party school multiple times. And there's no school to party at right now with COVID.
Right.
So crazy 2020. But, there's Brennan right there getting a lot of love from a lot of jobs. I do not expect him to be at San Jose State next year.
So that was a really exciting game. And our friend Tim Brando, actually called this game. So that was a really exciting game. And so hats off to San Jose State on that one. So we've talked about the SEC championship game. And then, of course, do we need to talk about the Clemson beatdown of Notre Dame?
Yeah, we could talk about it.
That right there was just an insane game. And especially with the way that, Notre.
Oh, we lost Stephen's audio there briefly for a second. Stephen, if you can hear me, your audio cut out. Are you good now?
Yep, we're good.
There you go.
So I don't know what's going on. We're going to have to fix that, and I apologize. But that was a really big beatdown by Clemson, and I do honestly feel like the score there late in the football game to get them on the board to 34-10 actually was good enough to put them in the 14 playoff, and that's a joke.
Again, Notre Dame is going to have this embarrassing loss against Clemson, and then they're going to have an embarrassing loss against Alabama.
Yes.
It's crazy. And, the selection committee, if you're going to put Notre Dame in there, okay. But, I think Notre Dame would have been the third-place team and Ohio State being the fourth team, and they didn't want to see Clemson and Notre Dame, 2 games in a row and another blowout. I would have actually liked the playoff a little bit better if we got to see Clemson and Notre Dame a third time. I would, but this is just a messed up playoff, and branding played a huge part. I think revenue money played a huge part. I liked what you said in your text. I won't repeat it on air, but this is just bad. This is bad for college football. It's really bad for college football of how we got to this point. I know a lot of people are tired of Clemson and Alabama. I know you're one of those people, Stephen. I don't mind watching Clemson and Alabama because I know I'm going to get a great game most of the time.
Right.
Clemson blew out Alabama a couple of years ago in a jokingly fashion. But I think this year's going to be a fun game. Can Clemson do it? Yeah. Can Bama do it? Yeah. And that's what we'll watch because we don't know who is going to do it.
Right. Well, let's go on to another rivalry game that was actually played this past weekend, and it was Minnesota versus Wisconsin for Paul Bunyan's Axe. And actually, this is the longest running rivalry game, as both teams have now played this for 130 years. That's
crazy. I love Minnesota because I think every game they play for an axe or a jug or a chair or something. They always play for something. And so I respect Minnesota and all their rivalry games. I always enjoy watching Minnesota play. But lo and behold, man, what a finish that this came down to. And an overtime game, a rivalry game, one of the legendary trophies of college football. I hate that Minnesota lost it, but hey, this is what we watch. The Big Ten. The Big Ten does have some fun with their rivalry games. I do enjoy that. There it is. There's the axe. There's the axe right there. That's what they play for. And so, man, I got to tell you, that's a pretty awesome-looking axe there. And let me throw this up there. Wisconsin has now kept Paul Bunyan's axe 15 out of the last 16 years. Wow. So the only loss Minnesota, or the only win Minnesota had was last year there in Madison. Other than that, it has been absolutely nothing but a domination by the Badgers. And, they had really big hype coming into the year. They beat down Michigan, and then COVID hit, and then they had a horrible end to their year. But they ended it on a positive note, winning back Paul Bunyan's axe. One of the great trophies of college football in the Big Ten. So always fun to see those games, especially when they go into overtime, Stephen. Yes. All right, man. Well, here's what I thought we would do real quick. Is because tomorrow we are going to have a best of show. So I figured there are a couple of bowl games that are coming up here between now and a week from now, and actually a week from today. So I thought we would run through these quick 9 bowl games and give our picks,
before we sign off for today. Are you good with that?
Absolutely.
So, and by the way, there was a bowl game last night or yesterday afternoon, and App State defeated North Texas. So the bowl season has already been underway, and there's actually one this afternoon here at 2:30 on ESPN. And so that's why I wanted to go on ahead and jump on these games. So first off, we have Tulane taking on Nevada in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Tulane comes in at 6-5. Nevada comes in at 6-2. This is going to be at 2:30 this afternoon on ESPN. Tulane is a 2.5-point favorite, and Tulane is given a 61% chance to win this game.
Is Will Hall going to be at this game, Stephen?
I doubt it.
That's the key factor for me.
Right.
Forgive me, I did not do my homework on this game. Matter of fact, I actually forgot this game was being played today.
Yes.
But if Tulane's missing their coach and he's gone, and part of that coaching staff will be gone as well,
Yes.
I'm going to lean toward Tulane not doing as well. I'm going with the Wolfpack. And I will say this, I think the Wolfpack is an excellent team.
Yes.
They barely lost that game to San Jose State in their championship here recently. So, or not the championship, but the week before the championship game. So the Wolfpack is a very solid team. That game was played in Las Vegas due to COVID reasons. But, yeah, I like the Wolfpack in the Potato Bowl.
Yes. All right, next up is going to be the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl. And actually, our good friend
DJ and Dave
Neal and DJ Shockley are actually on the call for this one, and it is going to be at 6 p.m. tonight on ESPN. BYU is a 6.5-point favorite. However, the Football Power Index favors the Central Florida Knights.
Is Central Florida going to claim a national championship or say they got snubbed by the bowl committee of playing in this game?
Right.
No, I wish we had Dave and DJ on talk about this. I do know this, Stephen. Dave Neal will have his 4 glasses of sweet tea in the booth with him, as DJ shared with us.
Definitely.
But, Central Florida kind of having a down year, but I wouldn't be too shocked, kind of playing in their home state. I won't be shocked if they have a good showing in this game, but I really think BYU has the much more superior athlete and quarterback and football player in this game. And so I'm going to BYU, and I think you get a game, but I like BYU winning this one.
Yes. I do too. I like the Cougars as well. All right, so we actually move to tomorrow, and these are 2 teams that I'm sure you're going to say boring, but it is an interesting little matchup just simply because Louisiana Tech is playing in New Orleans in the Superdome versus Georgia Southern. This is the RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Tomorrow, Wednesday at 2 p.m. on ESPN. Georgia Southern is a 5.5-point favorite, and the Football Power Index gives Georgia Southern a 58% chance to win.
Stephen, I'm actually a fan of both these teams. I almost was the play-by-play guy for Georgia Southern years ago. I almost took that gig. That's a long time ago, too.
Yes.
But La Tech, big fan of Rushton, Louisiana, and the Bulldogs there at La Tech. And I've always liked this bowl game, and the reason being is this bowl game always seems, the RL Carriers Bowl there played at the Superdome, it's always usually teams that have either not been to a bowl game in a really long time or their first bowl game
yes.
Ever. And so with La Tech being a Louisiana school, they're going to bring their fans, as many fans that the Dome will let them, the Superdome will let them. But Georgia Southern has always been a fun team to watch. They used to be a power house, and back in the 1AA days. And so this is going to be a fun game. I usually watch this game every year. I will be watching it this year.
Yes, and so who are you going with, though? You didn't make your pick, man.
I did make my pick. I think Georgia Southern's the better team, but I'm going with the home team. I'm going with La Tech. I'm going with the Bulldogs, baby.
I'm going with the Bulldogs, too. I like Louisiana Tech in that one, and we're actually picking the same games again, the same teams. All right, so next up is going to be, and this game actually has a little bit of interest for you because you are right down the road. We talked about it earlier that you could be in the parking lot in about 8 minutes. It is the Missouri Tigers on the road in Montgomery, Alabama, Wednesday at 6 p.m. on ESPN to take on Florida Atlantic, the team that was supposed to be in the conference championship game of the Conference USA, but Southern Miss spoiled their trip to the Conference USA championship game. So this is Memphis versus Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, the Tigers. Tigers have kind of had an up and down year this year.
Yes.
This is crazy to say, and I say it with a huge smile on my face. Memphis fans think it's a down year with a 7-3 record. A couple of years ago, they had been to a bowl game in decades. So, Memphis is having a great run right now of success. But with that being said, Florida Atlantic, you come out and take your whooping. I'm going with the Tigers, the blue and gray all the way.
And by the way, let me roll these highlights again for you, just simply because I want you to see something, and I want to get your take on it. Let me pull this up full screen. What are your thoughts about the sick helmets right there that the Memphis Tigers have? Those are awesome.
You like that, huh?
Dude, those are sweet.
Memphis has they've had some great uniform combos over the year.
Yes.
They got the Cincinnati Bengal ripoff with the blue helmet, and they've also got it in white and black and chrome, and they've got a lot. And they've got the flying. They call the logo the Flying Tiger, where it's the and the tiger jumping out from behind it. They call that the Flying Tiger. So there's a lot of great uniform combos that Memphis has, and even in basketball, they've got some good looking unis.
Yes.
So. But yeah, the Tigers. I'm wondering if the Tigers are now starting to become like a Boise State, one of those teams that outside of the Power Five, but they dominate every year, and they're going to be right there in that discussion. UCF has been that team the past couple of years. Now it looks like UCF is on the way down, rising. They played in the Cotton Bowl last year, played against Penn State. So Memphis is a team that's definitely on the rise, and there's so many athletes in the Memphis area, and right there in DeSoto County and West Tennessee, not known for its football talent, but Memphis is finding a way to keep a lot of that talent at home that usually ran off to Knoxville or down to Oxford or even down to Mississippi State or LSU. They are having a tremendous amount of success keeping those guys here in the Bluff City.
Yes. Well, we actually have some sad news about the bowl season. This year, there will be no Hawaii Bowl. Because Hawaii is actually, they're going to tear down the stadium out there and revamp. So Hawaii is trying to find a home to play the games in 2021.
You know what? Let's see if we can pick out a random stadium, Stephen. A stadium here in the Southeast. What would be a fun stadium that we could put them in? Something that would be fun to see on television. Hey, Cole talked about the football capital of the South there in Birmingham.
Yes.
We could maybe UAB could help them along the way.
Right.
And put them there. What are some other fun stadiums that you think we could stick them in?
Tiger Stadium.
Yeah, we could do that.
Mm,
What about Orlando, where they play the Citrus Bowl? I don't think anyone uses that stadium because I don't think UCF uses that stadium.
well, what about Jackson, right down there in Jackson, Memorial Stadium down there?
Yeah, Veteran Memorial Stadium in Jackson, Mississippi. Hey, if Hawaii dared to play in Jackson, I would buy season tickets. I would go watch the Warriors.
Yes,
I would, man. I would go all out and be a Warrior season ticket holder for a year.
Speaking of the Warriors, though, the reason I brought that up is because on Christmas Eve at 2:30 Thursday on ESPN, they are playing in the New Mexico Bowl against Houston.
Yeah.
And that is 2:30 ESPN. Houston is a 13-point favorite, and Houston is favored to win this game by 82% based off the Football Power Index.
Stephen, have you ever been to the state of New Mexico?
I have not, no.
I've been a couple of times, 3 or 4 times. 4 times, I do believe, if I remember correctly. I'm not going to win a political office in the state of New Mexico after I say this. It just comes across as a dirty state. It just comes across as a ugly state.
Right.
That place is rough. I've been watching the bowl game, the New Mexico Bowl, several years now. It's boring. The state, there's no one in the stands ever pre-COVID. The weather just looks depressing. The city looks depressing. Things look dirty. It just looks like no one wants to be there.
Right.
So going to this bowl game, Houston probably has a better chance, but the Rainbow Warriors, buddy, I'm not going against the Warriors. I'm all for Hawaii on this one, man.
I know. And look at the records, though. They're both pretty much even, so I'm going with the Rainbow Warriors as well. So we are definitely picking the same teams again.
We gotta get a Rainbow Warrior correspondent for the show. Maybe they can send us some swag.
Man,
bag of fun.
Man, that'd be nice. All right, next up is going to be the Camellia Bowl, and this is going to be, I think, the first time I can remember a game being played on Christmas Day. Now, we actually have a whole ton of NBA games on Christmas, but do you ever remember a college football game actually on December 25th?
Yeah, I think the Hawaii Bowl used to play on the 25th. That used to be a big stink about things. That a lot of teams didn't want to play the Hawaii Bowl because it was going to be on the 25th. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Southern Miss, we got to bring Heath Hinton on. Heath will know. I think Southern Miss played in the Hawaii Bowl on Christmas Day, and the Jamaican Bowl or the bowl game in Jamaica, whatever that was called, I think they have played that game on Christmas Day before.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Well, now the Hawaii Bowl used to be on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to get on Wikipedia after this. I'll call you on the way home. We'll talk about this on the way home.
All right. So Christmas Day, we actually have a pretty good little matchup between the runner-up in the Conference USA, Marshall, versus the runner-up in the Maction, Buffalo. This is Friday, 1:30 on ESPN. Buffalo is a 3.5-point favorite, and Buffalo is favored only by 55% to win. I'm actually going with Buffalo in this game because Marshall just looks really, really bad right now.
I'm glad you know that. I wouldn't know that. I haven't watched Marshall since earlier in the season.
Well, the last 2 games they got beat by Rice at home, and then UAB embarrassed them too.
Yeah, I saw the highlights of the UAB game. I don't know what's going on at Marshall. I don't know if they're folding up. I don't know what's going on there. But you know what? You picked Buffalo?
Hey, let me throw this stat at you before you make the pick. This past weekend, when they were in and hosting the Conference USA Championship game, their quarterback Wales for Marshall was 0 for 10 passing in the first half.
0 for, huh?
0 for 10. So now, with that nugget, make your pick.
So many jokes I want to make right now. Inappropriate jokes. Wow.
That's a try. And he ended up going 8 of 23.
Hey, you know what? Rebound. I'm about to come back. I'm about the underdog. I'm going Thundering Herd. They're bouncing back. Quarterback's going to have a great day. Thundering Herd all the way.
Thundering Herd versus Buffalo on Merry Christmas Day. So,
hey, how can you pick against a team that wears green on Christmas, Stephen?
That's true. I did
Thundering Herd.
about that. Yes. All right, and then we move to Saturday. We have 4 games, and some of them are actually pretty good. Now, this one is not going to be pretty good, and it is actually going to be. Give me just a second here. Go ahead and talk, man. Please.
Oh man, as you guys probably know at home, that some of these games I watch, some of these games I want to watch, some of these other games that Stephen pull out, I call him back to the show like, why in the world are we covering this game? I have no clue. I haven't watched those guys all year.
Right. Okay. So here we go. Is actually going to be.
Don't say Wyoming.
No. UAB taking on South Carolina, who is 2-8. How in the world did South Carolina at 2-8 make a stupid bowl game?
Well, you know how, and you know why. With all the craziness of some folks not playing football, opting out to play football, and conferences not filling their bowl requirements. The St. Pete Bowl is a great bowl. The Gasparilla Bowl. It's in St. Petersburg, Florida, and they play where the Rays play, the Tampa Bay Rays. This is a great bowl game. I remember Mississippi State went to this bowl a couple of years ago, played Miami of Ohio,
right?
They talked about how great the bowl was and how they treated them and what great food they had and how much fun they had and the gifts they got and the bowl gifts. So this is a great gig. For South Carolina, though, let's call it what it is. Shane Beamer is going to use these practices as an extra spring.
Yes.
He's not using it to win this bowl game.
Right.
And even if he was, I think Billy and the Blazers are going to embarrass them anyway. Shane will not be head coach in this game. The interim staff will. But all these bowl practicing, being spring and getting ready for next year.
Okay, so based on what Tom Luginbill said last time, I'm actually going to actually show and tell for my pick.
Yeah.
The Blazers, I'm actually going with the green of the Blazers here. Tom Luginbill on the show last time said that looked like the UAB Blazers. So I'm actually using that as my pick. I'm going Blazers all the way.
Nothing wrong with that.
So, and next up, we actually do have the game that we talked to, Tom Luginbill about, because that is the game that he's calling. It is going to be the First Responders Bowl, 9-1 Louisiana versus the University of San Antonio.
Yeah, University of Texas San Antonio.
San Antonio, yes.
Yeah. University of Texas Steve Austin, right? No.
Yes, that's right.
No, I don't think this is going to be a good game at all. I will watch it, and I'll say this: Billy Napier's known to lay eggs.
Right.
He is. I won't say last year's bowl game he struggled with a little bit, and shouldn't have struggled. They did not look good. They did not look sharp. But that's the case for most bowl teams anyway, Stephen. So, I'm not really putting down Billy Napier or his team on that. A lot of teams look rusty during bowl games. But this year, I think we'll have some better bowl games, and we won't see as much of that because we're starting the bowls right now. I mean, with all the craziness we've had with COVID, we're kind of starting that now. But when this game comes up, I like Billy Napier. I like Louisiana. I like the Raging Cajuns. I like them big. I like them all game long. I think this is a blowout.
I like Louisiana too, but I do like UTSA. I like that they play in that dome out there in San Antonio.
Where the Spurs play, brother.
Yes. I
Where
really
the Spurs played after Katrina.
Yes. So I really like that. But Louisiana all the way in this one, and I think they end the season with a record of 10-1. Now, this is a game that you're one of those things that you're going to call me after the game and go after the show and go, why are we picking this game? But the reason we're picking it is because it is actually on the schedule. It is the Lending Tree Bowl, Saturday, 2:30 p.m. on ESPN. It is Western Kentucky 5-6 versus Georgia State 5-4.
Wow. Hey, you remember that ESPN cover of Georgia State had the little baby on it and the football helmet, and it said something like a program is born?
Yes.
It was talking about Georgia State. Found that a fascinating article. Of course, Billy Curry started that program and he got it off the ground. I have no idea about either one of these teams, but you know what? I'm going to go Georgia State just because.
I'm actually going with Western Kentucky, just based off of our interview first week that we did the show with Coach Hugh Freeze. He said Western Kentucky was a senior-laden team. So with that being said, I'm going Western Kentucky and all of those seniors going out with a positive note.
Look at you. You got a mind like a steel trap, Stephen.
Yes.
Very nice nugget there.
So Georgia State is a 3.5-point favorite, and the Football Power Index only gives them a 57% chance to win.
Stephen, you should take that segment and put it on your resume tape. That was nice. Dynamite drop in there, Stingray.
Thank you, man. Now, the next two are the next one is actually going to be a rematch from a game that was supposed to be played, but it wasn't due to COVID. College Game Day was going to be there. Think about this, Heath. Which game was not played that was highly, highly anticipated?
Oh, man. The Bourbon Bowl with the South Central Louisiana State Mud Dogs? I don't know.
Think about it. Think long and hard real quick about what game was supposed to be a top 10 matchup that College Game Day was supposed to be there.
Oh, yeah. It was Liberty. It was Liberty and Coastal Carolina, wasn't it?
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
So now in the FBC Mortgage Cure Bowl, we have 9-1 Liberty versus number 12 Coastal Carolina, who is undefeated. 6:30 primetime game on ESPN. Coastal now, get this, Coastal is a 7-point favorite, and the Football Power Index likes Coastal Carolina by 71%. Not so fast, my friend. I'm going Coach Freeze. I'm going Malik Willis. I'm going with the Flames, my friend. They get it done over Coastal Carolina.
Let's think about this, Stephen. Ifs, ands, buts, candies, and nuts. I
Right.
get it. But, hey, it is Christmas time, so we can talk about it.
Yes.
Let's just say Liberty didn't miss that extra point, and Liberty's undefeated. And they did get to play this game. Liberty and Coastal Carolina did get to play, both teams
Right.
undefeated. And whoever won, are they in a New Year's Six bowl?
Yes, I think so.
I would like to think they are, although I think the bowl games just completely poo-pooed on everything.
Yes.
But and yes, I said poo-pooed.
Yes.
But gosh, what could have been? Everyone wants to talk about how crazy and terrible and bad and sucky 2020's been. 2020 has brought some great things that we have never seen or had happen before. Well, I mean, look, we're talking about a great game between Liberty and Coastal Carolina.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about how great a game this is going to be, and we can't wait to see it. Who ever cared about Liberty and Coastal Carolina before 2020?
Right.
So, I mean, there's so many good things that have happened in 2020.
Well, I would say that Coastal Carolina started, ascending last year. So they were a good team, but nobody knew about Coastal Carolina.
Yeah. So, I'll say this about – I didn't have time to hit my mute, sorry. About the about the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina. I think they've been getting a little sloppy.
Yes.
And when we've seen this before with undefeated teams, they start getting a little sloppy, but yet they don't really correct the mistakes because they're still winning games.
Yes.
Then it all kind of falls apart, and they lose tragically somewhere. Stephen, I'm with you. I think this next game they lose. I will say this. I will be pulling for either team. Either team that wins this game, I'm going to be extremely happy for. But I think Liberty will come out and embarrass Coastal Carolina. I really think that's going to happen. I don't think this is going to be a close game. I think Liberty is going to win. They're going to win big. And it's going to be a very sad period to the Coastal Carolina fun run that we've had in 2020.
And, BYU almost knocked off Coastal Carolina. They were 1 yard away from doing it.
Yeah. And, Steven, we've got to get one of those Mullets versus Mormons shirts.
Yes.
We need one of those, man.
That's right. Well, I'm going to put that on you.
Let me make my wish list out, Santa.
Yes. All right. So, and also this game, because we had Tom Luginbill on the show, this is the other game that he is calling on January the 2nd. It's between North Carolina State and Kentucky. And oddly enough, look right down there, Kentucky is actually favored in this game. How? I don't know. But that is absolutely crazy that a 4-6 football team is favored over a ranked NC State team.
ESPN's gotten a lot of things wrong recently, Stephen.
Yes.
I think they got this game wrong, too. I will be pulling for Big Blue Nation. I will be 100% pulling for Big Blue Nation. The Wolfpack of NC State's going to win this football game.
And by the way, let me pull something up on my phone real quick that was going to shock you real quick, if you don't mind, if I can get my internet to work right. Okay, we talked about the UAB versus South Carolina matchup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to know the Vegas line on that football game?
Yeah, what is it?
UAB over a South Carolina SEC team by 7. 7. Now, talk about 2020 at its best.
Wow.
That is like, I was blown away by that. And UAB is favored in the Football Power Index by 53%.
Wow. I'll say this about South Carolina. They're in a job interview. Every single player on that roster is in a job interview leading up in this bowl game.
Right.
And in this bowl game. There will be an extreme effort on South Carolina's part. There will. Right. They're all trying to impress the new coach, the new coaching staff. They guys that haven't got to play now have a chance to show out. Guys that have been playing know that there's someone trying to replace them now. So there will be a spirited effort, but I just like Billy Clark. Billy Clark, he just wins.
Yes.
And he wins at a high level. I just like him.
Now, do you mind if we end on a positive high note?
As long as it's high.
Let's go back to Saturday real quick, and let's talk about the ever exciting game between Lane Kiffin and Ed Orgeron. I know you probably weren't able to watch this game because you were at the Mississippi State game.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, this one was a barn burner. Matt Corral had another Arkansas performance, throwing 6 interceptions, and they only lost by a touchdown on the road to LSU. Oh, and here is a nugget for you, Heath. With all of the success that LSU's had and the ups and downs this year, with the win, LSU avoided their first losing season since 1999.
I remember that 99 team of LSU, and it was not a good team.
No.
Cecil the Diesel was on that team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Wow. I didn't know this.
I mean, dude, that is a stable program right there, buddy.
Yeah. Actually, me and my son, Big John, we watched the replay of this last night.
I got you.
We watched it. Just let me tell you that 9-year-old boys get tickled to death when a guy named Butte gets his name called on television. Yeah. And so we end up watching the SEC in 60 Minutes as well. And I think Butte caught every single pass in the second half.
Yes.
And he caught almost everything. So, but that was a fascinating game. But
yes,
I want to give props to Ole Miss, and I want to give huge props to Ole
Definitely.
Miss. You're missing your best 2 receivers. You have 5 interceptions and a fumble.
Yeah.
You also had some turnover on downs, which some people consider turnovers as well.
Right.
And you still lose just by a score. Now, LSU's terrible. But, you know, I don't think anyone gave Ole Miss a chance in that football game, even with a very downtrodden, terrible LSU team.
Right.
I don't think anyone gave Ole Miss a chance to beat LSU.
Yes.
And Ole Miss had every chance to beat LSU. Massive props to that. Steven, here's the crazy thing. If you want to waste a part of your day and kind of giggle about some stuff, go Google Lane Kiffin Auburn and start reading the articles.
Right.
Some reporter there in Alabama referred to Lane Kiffin as the devil, and it's time to do a deal with the devil to get Auburn out of this mess. I was like, good Lord. So there's so many articles bashing Kiffin that he would never be considered for Auburn. There's other articles saying that he is the answer at Auburn. But I do know this. Some people have reported that he has interviewed with Auburn and he has made it to the formal interviews. I don't think Auburn's going to go the way of – I don't see that happening. Stephen, if it does 2 coaches to Auburn, 2 head football coaches to Auburn, I mean, it's Tommy Tuberville 2.0. Does that mean that Lane Kiffin has a future in politics representing the state of Alabama and the U.S. Senate like Tubby is?
Nah, I doubt that. All right, man. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Stingray Show.
Whoa. Steven, do you see the comment?
What?
We're international.
Oh, dude. Yes.
We're international.
Dude, what's up, man?
Hey, if you want us to give you some love on the show, send us some German chocolate.
Dude, man, I've been trying to find that guy. And Flex, and he was recently my friend on Twitter, and I have not actually been able to find him. So Flex, let me know down below if you are still on Twitter, man. So, because we would love to have you actually call in and be a part of the show from over there. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
That would be awesome, man.
Yeah, we can start off 2021 as an international show, Steven.
Dude, man, that's insane.
Hey, Steve, we got to get some interns and see if we can't get someone on the space station to call in on the show. How cool would that be?
Man, that would be sweet. Thank you, by the way, for getting me to that, because I was not looking at the comments.
Yeah, that's my Christmas gift to you this year, Stephen. There you go. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, buddy. All right, so tomorrow, we're going to have a fun show. Tell them what we're going to do, Heath.
Tomorrow is a best of show. I came up with the idea a couple of weeks ago that we have had some great interviews on this show, and we've had some just absolutely over-the-top funny moments. And so we thought it would be fun to share some of those moments with you here as we get started with this show. This show is only growing. It's only getting better. Our numbers have been going up and up and up. And so we thought, why don't we just do our very first best of show and give you guys something that we have enjoyed doing on the show. So I'm sure there'll be well, Stephen, why don't you tease them a little bit and tell them what the best of show is going to have on it? Don't tell them everything. Just tease them a little bit.
Okay. All right. So tomorrow, you're going to hear great stories about the SEC and why it is the best conference in the in the country. You're going to hear about some of the rivalry matchups, some in-depth from guys like Cole Kubelik, also rivalry games such as Mississippi State Ole Miss from Derek Pegues. You're also going to hear about some insane recruiting stories. You're also going to hear about some playing days and, of course, Steve Spurrier stories. And people that you're going to hear from are Brock Heward, Tom Luginbill, Tim Brando, DJ Shockley, people like that, even Mark Schleybaugh. We're actually going to talk about non-football stories as well. So we're going to have a really funny show. And plus, we're also going to have mine and Heath's favorite clip. And Heath, would you like for me to play your favorite one just to kind of tease them?
Why not? Go for it.
All right. So this, in my opinion, because Heath has talked to me about this uncontrollably. So this, in my opinion, is Heath's favorite clip. It is very short. So without further ado, here it is. Tony Barnhart. Mr. Barnhart, how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing well, fellas. Hope you're okay, too.
Thank you.
Tony, I got a quick question. Does your wife ever call you Mr. College Football?
No, she calls me a lot of things, and nothing that flattering. But no, occasionally she'll get a Mrs. College Football when we go out sometimes. So it's okay. It's all good.
Was classic Tony Barnhart, dude.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people have stopped me and told me here in Hernando, my hometown, how many people have stopped me and told me how funny they thought that was, and other people are like, "I can't believe you asked Tony Barnhart that question." So, I thought it would just be something fun to start the interview off with and make him laugh, kind of loosen him up, and tell some good stories, which he did, by the way. So, we've got to get Tony. I know we've had Tony on twice, but we have got to convince Tony to write that Larry Munson book, the book that he said he can't release.
Yes.
There's so many great stories that he couldn't tell. I was like, we've got to find a way to get him to write that book and release it. That's too good of a treasure, a national treasure for football fans, nationwide, not to have that. And imagine what Georgia fans would do if they got that. Georgia fans would eat that alive. They would love that.
Yes. All right, man. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Stingray Show. We hope you will join us right back here on social media tomorrow for the best of show. Enjoy your college football this afternoon and tonight, as there are 2 games, and we will see you right back here on the Stingray Show tomorrow.
Hey, Flex, Gooden Morgan.
Yes.
The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you! Hoo, 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 hoo!
This is Stephen Ray, aka Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn. Worst defense ever! So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee. They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium. Are you kidding me? My God almighty. What an epic way for the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry to end